Since this is supposed to be a flying car, I'm going to give this giant Pikachu a front row seat to the action. Yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. Definitely some damage there.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Lost one of the landing gear legs. Now that propeller's in the ground. Those ESCs are all over. Might have chopped some wires, we'll check on that. That was 0 throttle. Pretty sure it can lift a few hundred pounds of weight.
A few moments later.
So as I'm picking up the wreckage, I realized this might be a blessing. My 1/4 inch bolt just sheared in half on the landing gear. So I don't think it actually bent my frame. And there's the other bolt that just sheared in half. Oh my gosh. Yep, there you go. 2 1/4 inch bolts just sheared right in half. Guess what, guys? Here's the other side. Another 1/4 inch bolt sheared in half. So I think we're good to go. We just need to get a couple more bolts. Check that out. Throw it over on my sheared bolts collection. Nice.
Nice.
Looks like it buried my 3D printed feet in the ground pretty good. Several of them. Just taking a lunch break, and then we will get those bolts swapped out and we'll give it another try. So I was going through some parameters, got me a little shady setup here. This might be one thing that will help. I currently have the spin when armed set to 0.15, which, if I understand it correctly, is 15% of the full power, which is okay when you have a 6S configuration, which is just one battery. But when you're running 2, you're literally doubling the voltage. And so that's 15% of a 12S setup, which is just way too much power. So now I've changed those parameters to where it will spin at 9% when it's armed instead of 15%, and the spin minimum when it's flying is at 12% instead of 20%. Okay, I'm about to try it again with 3 cinder blocks, which is an extra 120 pounds roughly. And I have taken out all of the slack from all 4 lines tying down the landing gear, so it shouldn't fly away this time. Arming in 3, 2, 1. Disarming. Well, it didn't fly away. Okay, I'm gonna try to fly. Oh, I'm shaking a little bit. Arming in 3, 2, 1. Well, I don't know if that counts, but it did something. And on the front right corner of it, Looks like we just sheared another 1/4 inch bolt, so it's not so bad. Easily fixable. I was looking at the footage of that flight, and technically it was a success. We made it off the ground with all 4 landing gear for just a second. I mean, probably not even a second, but it flies with that extra weight.
I also noticed that one of the legs went into a hole in the ground from the previous crash, causing the drone to tip forward. And while I was checking the flight log, I noticed that the highest throttle I ever gave it was about 20%. So the only reason it didn't stay in the air longer or go higher was because I was
Nothing but a little chicken.
But with that being said, it would still be nice if it was easier to control.
2,000 years later.
To give the flying car more stability, I decided to use more sensors, which I've installed on this drone as a test, just to kind of make sure they all play together nicely. I have 4 sensors on this drone that I'm going to move over to the flying car. 2 of them are these GPS units. I just have 2 instead of 1 because it makes it more stable. I also have this LiDAR rangefinder right here, which just senses the distance from the ground. And then I have this optical flow sensor, which basically works the same way as an optical mouse by constantly taking pictures of the ground to sense movement. Right now I'm in stabilize mode, which requires input from the pilot to stay in position. Now if I stop giving it input, it starts drifting, both up and down and sideways. Now I've taken control again. But if I switch it to flow hold, which I'm doing now, no more input required, and it stays pretty well in place. But you can see it still drifts just a little bit. So now I'm going to switch to position hold mode right now. And you can see it's extremely stable. And that's because it's not only using the optical flow sensor now, but also the LiDAR sensor and both of the GPS units. One of the cool things about using a LiDAR rangefinder is that it will automatically adjust the altitude to avoid obstacles. So if I go to the left, it automatically increases altitude so it doesn't hit the trailer. Then if I go back down to the right again, it can sense that the trailer is no longer under it and goes back to its same altitude.
I'll be transferring the sensors and flying in the next video, so subscribe!